On August 17, 2025, the United States Supreme Court made a landmark decision. It struck down the steep tariffs former President Trump had placed on goods from Brazil and India. This ruling is a game-changer for American trade policy. The court declared that the president does not have the authority to impose such taxes unilaterally. For months, businesses and families struggled with soaring prices due to the 50% tariffs. The Supreme Court's decision clarifies that only Congress can set trade taxes, restoring a crucial balance of power. The tariffs had made imports from Brazil and India much more expensive, impacting everything from groceries to electronics. The president had cited a national emergency to justify the tariffs, but the court disagreed. By referencing the Constitution, the justices reaffirmed that Congress, not the president, controls trade and taxation. This case was closely watched worldwide, as it set a precedent for how America handles economic emergencies. The decision brings relief to businesses and consumers, providing a clear path forward. It means future presidents cannot use emergency powers to make sweeping changes to trade policy without Congress. The ruling stabilizes trade rules, making them more predictable for everyone. It's a defining moment for American democracy, reinforcing that no single leader has unchecked power. The impact will ripple through the economy, affecting prices, jobs, and business planning. After months of uncertainty, the rules are clear. Congress holds the power over major trade decisions. This decision will be studied for years as a turning point in the balance of governmental power. To follow this story, you need to know what a tariff is. It's a tax on goods brought into the country, imports. For example, if American companies buy coffee from Brazil, a tariff makes that coffee more expensive. Tariffs are often used to protect domestic businesses by making foreign goods costlier. The U.S. Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the power to set tariffs and regulate trade. Historically, Congress debated and voted on tariffs, ensuring all regions and industries had a voice. This process is slow but deliberate, designed to weigh the impact on the entire economy. When Congress is in charge, there's transparency and public input. If a president acts alone to set tariffs, it challenges this tradition and the Constitution's rules. That's why the recent Supreme Court case was so important. It asked who really has the final say on trade taxes. The court's answer was clear. Congress holds this authority, not the president. This decision preserves the balance of power the nation was built on. It ensures that major economic decisions are made through debate, not by a single leader. The ruling protects the system of checks and balances at the heart of American democracy. In short, tariffs are powerful tools, and now their use is firmly back in Congress's hands. Former President Trump imposed tariffs on Brazil and India, claiming the U.S. faced an economic emergency due to a trade deficit. A trade deficit means the country buys more from abroad than it sells. Trump used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, a law meant for national security crises, to justify the tariffs. This was the first time IEEPA was used to address a trade deficit, not a true emergency. Critics argued that trade deficits are normal in a global economy and don't qualify as emergencies. In fact, at the time, the U.S. had a trade surplus with Brazil, making the justification questionable. The tariffs were massive, a 50% tax on all goods from Brazil and India, affecting $135 billion in trade annually. The cost, about $67 billion a year, was paid by American importers, not foreign governments. These costs were quickly passed on to consumers, raising prices on everyday goods. The move was controversial and seen as part of a broader strategy to reshape U.S. trade relationships. Many experts doubted the legality and effectiveness of using emergency powers for economic policy. The Supreme Court's decision put an end to this experiment, restoring normal trade rules. The case highlighted the risks of using emergency laws for routine economic issues. The Supreme Court's decision was rooted in a strict reading of the law and the Constitution. The justices found that the IEEPA was never meant for general economic policy. It's for true emergencies like war or terrorism. By using IEEPA to set tariffs, the president overstepped, taking powers reserved for Congress. The court emphasized the separation of powers. Congress sets trade policy, not the president. The legal challenge, led by businesses and states, argued that letting the president declare economic emergencies would give them unchecked control. The ruling closes this loophole, preventing future presidents from bypassing Congress on major trade issues. The decision isn't about whether tariffs are good or bad, it's about who gets to decide. The president still has some trade authority under other laws, but sweeping tariffs now require congressional approval. The message is clear: major trade changes must go through Congress. The tariffs hit American families and businesses hard. Prices on goods from Brazil and India jumped. From car parts to coffee, importers paid the 50% tax, then passed those costs to consumers, raising the cost of living. Small and medium businesses struggled to absorb the sudden price hikes, delaying growth and hiring. Job growth slowed, with only 106,000 new jobs added between May and July 2025. The government collected more customs revenue, but it came from American companies, not foreign governments. In effect, the tariffs acted as a tax on U.S. businesses and consumers. The uncertainty made things worse. Companies couldn't plan for the future, unsure if tariffs would change again. Many delayed investments in hiring, waiting for clarity. The Supreme Court's decision brings relief, promising more stable rules for trade. Lower tariffs should ease inflation and help family budgets. Businesses can now plan ahead, knowing trade policy won't change overnight. The ruling restores confidence for both companies and consumers. Stability is back, and the economy can start to recover. With the Supreme Court's ruling, big changes are underway. Companies that paid the illegal tariffs can now seek refunds. Over $100 billion could flow back into the economy. This cash will help businesses pay debts, invest and hire. The refund process will take time, but it's a major relief for struggling companies. Prices for imported goods should drop, easing inflation for families. The power to set broad trade policy is now firmly back with Congress. Any major tariffs must go through the legislative process: debate, votes, and public input. This restores transparency and stability to trade policy. Businesses can plan with confidence, knowing the rules won't change overnight. The era of using emergency powers for sweeping tariffs is over. The ruling creates a more predictable environment for trade and the economy. The Supreme Court's decision sparked strong reactions. Business leaders and industry groups cheered the end of costly uncertainty. Legal scholars praised the defense of constitutional checks and balances. The White House and Trump's allies criticized the ruling, saying it weakens the president's ability to protect U.S. industries. Supporters of the tariffs called the decision judicial overreach. On Capitol Hill, most Democrats and many moderate Republicans supported the ruling, while Trump's staunchest allies opposed it. Among the public, many consumers and small business owners welcomed the news, hoping for lower prices. Others who favored the tariffs felt disappointed, believing they protected American jobs. The debate over trade policy remains deeply divisive. This ruling won't end the argument, but it sets a clear legal standard. The conversation about America's role in global trade will continue. This Supreme Court ruling is more than a decision about tariffs. It's a defining moment for American democracy. It confirms that presidential power has limits, even in emergencies. The decision strengthens checks and balances, ensuring no branch becomes too powerful. For the economy, it brings stability. Businesses can plan, invest, and hire without fear of sudden policy shifts. Consumers are protected from unexpected price spikes. Future presidents now know they must work with Congress on major trade changes. This encourages cooperation and public debate, leading to more balanced policies. The ruling reinforces the principles America was built on: fairness, transparency, and the rule of law. It clarifies the roles of President and Congress, putting trade policy back in the hands of elected representatives. As the country moves forward, this case will stand as a reminder of the importance of constitutional limits. The decision protects both democratic institutions and economic well-being. It's a milestone that will shape America's future for years to come.